I don't know what we'll say. Don't worry about it. It looks good. Hey everybody. Hey everybody. I mean nobody. We maxed out at about a dozen on that. So what do you think? Should we get started? Got the live stream going. We've got our archive going. Got a bunch of beautiful people ready to hear some wonderful words. Welcome everybody to the 9th collection. Very excited about our lineup tonight. And yeah, it's been a real honor. Here comes Jason Glover down the aisle there. Thank you very much, Jason Glover, my partner here. And I see our old friend Jane Kaplan in the audience. Hi, Jane. Nice to see you. Jane and Jason and I used to all work together at the Rendezvous, and it's so great that here we are in our little mini reunion. And Jason managed to find me and bring me in here, and here we are. So it's really exciting that we're on our 9th one already. We do this once a month on first Wednesdays. There are collections cards scattered throughout. There's some at the bar if you don't have one at your table. This QR code behind me is the same QR code on the back of those cards. If you want to, at any point, you can go to our webpage and check out some of the websites for the writers tonight, if you are interested. Many have published books that you can find through their websites or other information. And we also have archives on our website as well, which will take you to see some of our other collections and maybe some of the other writers from those collections. But all that said, I'm just so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to see everybody. I'm really happy to see my old friend Jane. So I'm going to start tonight with a poem that is actually published that you can find on a linked page from the website, from the webpage here. If you want to read it to yourself later, I'd be honored. This poem is called Starry Eyes, and just a little background on it. I've been thinking a lot about truth and reality and perception and how those things have been distorted. And so this poem, think of it a little bit like a screenplay. It's a little bit of a hybrid in that way. So the numbers that you'll hear are referring to the cuts that the screenplay might be presenting. So this is Starry Eyes. 586. Memory is a movie, the real, too real, of a history clouded by cuts and damaged film. Audio crackles, an unreliable narrative, persistent propaganda, the haze of age and distorted claims. But one thing is clear: a figure crosses a river, lumbers in a chaos of meows. Pan and zoom on a plane over the shadowy form, a plane that hums, is populated by so many clowns that spies are harder to spot. Some spies are clowns, others are not. They are the circus government, a secret cabal. These clowns, spies, and clown spies, some equipped with binoculars, cameras, kaleidoscopes, and sneers. Their clown footage, in fact, is spliced into the reel and captures the lumbering Sasquatch made up entirely of cats. The bird's eye view of the creature confirm the narrator's assertions. 586B voiceover: a caucus of cats A feline conspiracy gathers in the woods, piles in cacophony, leaves enormous and mysterious paw prints in the snow, and baffles lawmakers and naturalists. Cat Squatch sees in all directions, naps intermittently, prefers the night, is a danger to society. A super predator individually, collectively, she rules. Her existence, their existence, is undeniable, is visible. 587. The golden hour has ended. The moon, not clouded, illuminates starry myriad eyes. Clowns and clown spies levitate balloons, a dangerous proposition around so many claws. It is an experiment. It is an alternate reality. Are we being tested, lied to? Are patience stretched, disposed? Do our own starry eyes remain deceived? Who dares to tell us what is true and not true? We infer what we wish. A Sasquatch made of cats is an impossibility. No amount of proclamation will change that. The film is a fraud. Special effects stand in for reality. A large person in a fur coat surely roams the mountainside. The rest is done in post-production. Paw licking, tail chasing, furniture scratching. In all, none of it proves beyond a reasonable doubt the Cat Squatch exists. 588. Cat Squatch, on the bank, investigates a swarm of gnats. As clowns ready the spies and clown spies to jump from the plane and get a closer look, prove the existence of Cat Squatch. The clown spies insists it exists. Who can be trusted if not clown spies? Odd giggles resonate in the hollow cabin of the plane, and so many balloons come flying and explode at the touch of two long needles, surgically surprising, unbothered by the popping, delighted by the destruction. The troop of clowns blow up the balloons for the cruelty of the popping. That is to say, the popping is the point. 589. Cat Squatch stretches, purrs. Without a second to consider the spies, glances up. Polka dot parachutes fall like acid rain, and Cat Squatch knows that existence is proven by sensations, a subjective and undeniable knowledge. Yet memory persists and distorts memory until the legend of Cat Squatch is all we have. The furry and impossible, adorable, stands in for belief in all else. 589B, voiceover. Without Cat Squatch, they have nothing. They cling to the oversized lie to avoid being exposed. History is revealed incrementally. Eventually, the truth is known, and we can begin to rebuild. When we expose the fabrication, power disperses, cats scatter. And instead of cuddles and purrs, the clowns and spies and clown spies must stop the real, admit to hidden objectives, give Cat Squatch up. They can keep the secret circus a silent circus for only so long. The lights come on, and we, in the dreamy theater of memory, blink awake to reality. Thank you for your attention as I
Mike's up.
oh no. Thank you for your attention as I proliferate the existence or non-existence of Cat Squatch. Something's happened with the microphone. Perhaps Jason can help us out in a moment. Wow. I don't know, yeah. That's all right. While we're figuring that out, I can introduce our first writer that we have scheduled tonight. Katrina Barnes is a writer, editor, storyteller, and creative entrepreneur dedicated to expressing the color, rhythm,
There it goes.
and resilience of culture. Okay, I'm going to start that over for Katrina's sake. Katrina Barnes is a writer, editor, storyteller, and creative entrepreneur dedicated to expressing the color, rhythm, and resilience of culture, especially in the face of forces that seek to diminish it. Her work centers underrepresented voices and perspectives with a primary focus on fiction that explores identity, community, and the boundaries of genre. With a deep love for narrative in all its forms, Katrina has completed 4 screenplays, one of which reached the final reading of the Bechdel Group's Fall 2020 series. She continues to develop scripts, short stories, and poetry, including haiku, and her own original form of social verse, a style she created to merge activism and lyricism through accessible, socially engaging storytelling. Katrina holds an MFA in creative writing from Goddard College and degrees in communications and social sciences from the University of Washington. Whether on the page or in performances, her goal is to create work that reflects truth, challenges norms, and speaks to the heart of lived experience. Please welcome Katrina Barnes.
I guess I'm gonna choose to believe that Sasquatch lives. I think I saw him on the, I took my nieces to Forks over the summer, because Twilight, right? And on the way, one of my nieces did see something, some carving, and couldn't decide if it was a Sasquatch or what. So maybe, just a few miles too far east of it. So thank you, everyone. Tonight I'm going to read from one of this technology work with me, one of my scripts. And what I would say about this one, let's see if we can get it back though, is that I'm going to read from 2 different parts of it. I'm going to start with the introduction. And the characters that you're going to meet in the introduction are our main protagonists, Mrs. Franklin. It was an elderly woman, but she still is very active, very spry. And we'll meet a couple of different characters as we go through introducing her to you. And we're going to kind of jump towards about 2/3 of the way and introduce you. These characters you would have seen before if you're reading the whole play, but the characters in that section are our antagonists and 2 of Miss Franklin's friends, Bernie and Thelma. All right. So this one is called Ghetto Kung Fu Master. Interior, home, bedroom, night. The rain beats like a drum on the windows, and the bedroom lights up with flashes of lightning as the thunder rumbles. The lone person fights to keep the nightmare away, but the pain and guilt of last year prevail and she can't escape. Mrs. Maggie Franklin, elderly African-American female, tosses and turns. An image of a car running over a curb hitting a man meshes with an image of an older man laying on a floor, the life gone out of his eyes. She startles awake and sits up. She looks around the room before looking out into the dark night. What am I supposed to do, Bailey? Bailey, elderly African-American male, he doesn't look his 120 years. Former ghetto kung fu master and mentor, crosses his legs and leans back in a chair. You can't keep asking me questions you already know the answer to. Her mind goes into a memory of Bailey and finding him alone in the dojo, his eyes wide and vacant. I've lived a good life, a long, long life, over 120 years. It's nothing to be sad about. Should have been longer. You were ready, young one. You were ready years ago when I turned the school over to you, and you're ready now. Stop hiding things away. Trust yourself. Trust your purpose. And stop pouting. It's not a master type of thing to do. She hits her pillow in frustration. If I'm the master, I can pout if I want to pout. I can do what I want to do when I want to. Well, how's that working for you? Is this why you haunt my life? To tell me what I'm not doing right? Bailey rises and moves to the end of the bed. His image appears to flicker. I told you I'd always be with you. She puts her pillow over her head and screams in frustration. Fine. Do it your way. You always did. Bailey's voice fades away as she sighs, pulls the pillow away, beats it, puts it beneath her head, and settles in for another night of fitful sleep. Interior, home, bedroom, day. Mrs. Franklin finishes dressing as she looks over her shoulder at her husband, Henry, elderly African male. I don't want to talk about it, Henry. It's not good for you, sweet. Like, I'm old enough to know what is and what isn't good for me. Henry shrugs and glances around the room. His eyes land on an opened, half-packed suitcase. He points at it. Is this because of me? Because of my trip? She doesn't answer as she moves to the open suitcase and touches the items inside, noting a bit of dust that's settled. Are the dreams of Bailey back? This is in the way. I'm going to put it in the closet now. She closes the suitcase and heads for the closet. When she opens the door, she notices a golden glow coming from a box toward the back. How many things are you going to keep in there? Henry asked. She looks over her shoulder to ask Henry what he means, but he isn't there. She places the suitcase on the floor and shuts the door. As she walks out of the room, she hears her name being called by another voice. The voice seems to be a mix of Henry, Bailey, and something else. She looks back at the closet and sees the glow shining underneath the door. She pushes away. The urge to go toward it, she pushes that away and walks away. Interior, living room. Mrs. Franklin walks towards her living room and passes family photos from various stages in her life. Pictures of her wedding day, of her sparring with her husband and holding him down with her foot on his chest and her arms raised in victory, smiles on both of their faces. Of her daughter's husband and her grandchildren, of her training school, of her sisters and friends, and of her and her martial arts teacher, Bailey, on the day he handed her the school and the belt. She pauses to reach out with several pictures before wiping a tear or two from her eyes, and she moves away from the recent one of Henry. Suddenly, her head snaps at a noise. She looks around, trying to locate where the sound came from. It stops just as quickly as it started. Henry, is that you? And then jumping ahead a little bit. Exterior, neighborhood street. Bernie and Thelma walk out of the dojo towards Thelma's cart. It's a go-kart, and her son, her grandson has, as they call it, souped up for her. They ignore Jefferson, who is leaning against his car, parked next to the cart. Jefferson rolls a toothpick around in his mouth. Bernie asks Thelma, don't forget we have to help serve at church meeting on Saturday. I ain't forgot. Why you think you always got to tell me what we got to do? Because you forget. I do not. I just change my mind sometimes. Right, you ain't fooling nobody. You forget. I don't. Yeah, you want to ride or not? Of course I want to ride. That's why I'm reminding you, you my ride. I don't mean Saturday. I'm talking about now. What I look like with this helmet in my hand if I don't want to ride. You're the crazy one. Jefferson looks at Bernie. I give you a ride, Bernie. Me and you got things to talk about. You hear something, Thelma? No, not a thing. You know you heard me. Y'all better have your ears checked. Jefferson moves towards the woman aggressively. Thelma puts a hand in her bag, and Bernie grips her helmet, ready to use it as a weapon. Jefferson looks around to see if anyone is coming close to them. He reaches out to grab Bernie. The women step away from him. Willie Jefferson, you done lost whatever mind you had. I ain't lost my mind. I know what I'm doing, and I got something to say to Bernie. You ain't got nothing to say to me, unless it's, I repent of my evil ways and rebuke the devil. I ain't got nothing to repent. Well, Thelma looks him over. You could apologize for being mean, nasty, and ugly. The women laugh. Thelma, now, how you gonna make the man apologize for being ugly? That ain't his fault. Yes, it is. It is. How's that? Well, he ugly because of the way he act, mostly. Then again, she looks him over. Bernie decides, well, I can't argue with that. You sure are right. Jefferson moves closer. I've had enough of you two. He tries to grab Bernie. Bernie raises the helmet over her head. Why are you trying to be salty and jump at me? Thelma looks at her. What does that mean? Bernie smiles and shrugs. I don't know. Jefferson, I said I want to talk to you, Bernie. You use your mouth, not your hands, to talk, Willie Jefferson. You done made him mad now. Best say what you gotta say and be on your way. Hey, don't tell me what to do, Thelma. Look here, make no mistake. Bernie is the more reticent of us two. I'll take you out now and have no problem sleeping or praying. Bernie looks at Thelma. Now why? Why are you gonna use a word you know he don't know? What word? Reticent? You know the spool don't know that word. Look, if he don't got a dictionary and print at home, he can Google it. I ain't dumbing down my vocabulary for nobody. You're right. They both turn back to Jefferson, who tries to grab Bernie again. What do you want, Jefferson? Just go ahead and speak. Yeah, now, she got a roast in the oven and you holding up dinner. Jefferson moves forward and a click is heard from inside Thelma's purse. Don't make us repeat ourselves, Jefferson gulps. Well, Bernie, you know I like you. I always have. I wanted to give you a heads up. Things are about to change around here. You're gonna wanna be on the right side. Show me some respect. The right side? What side's that? Oh wait, don't answer. That's rhetorical. You can look that one up too. You should have learned by now, this ain't the way to get what you want. I ain't stupid. You're gonna regret not listening to me, Bernie. You too, Thelma. On your way now. Jefferson looks at the women. He looks at Thelma's purse, and then the helmet in Bernie's hand and backs away. When he reaches the car door, he turns and opens it and slowly gets inside. Obey the rules of the world now, Willie Jefferson. Obey the rules of the road. He drives off. Well, Thelma, that was fun. You better be careful, Bernie. I will. Now, let's get this cart going. I'm hungry. Thelma pulls her helmet from the locked storage case on the back of the cart, puts it on her head and adjusts the straps. You know, Bernie, you so bossy. I don't know what Jefferson sees in you. Now you just trying to make me sick. Besides, I'm a wonderfully made woman. Thelma nods and laughs as Bernie straps on her helmet and they ride off down the street. Interior, Jefferson's car, same moment. Hey, Google, what does reticent mean? Reticent. Reticent means either quiet or restrained, not revealing one's thoughts or feelings readily. Huh. Yeah, that's her all right. Hey, Google, what does rhetorical mean? Rhetorical. A question asked in order to produce an effect or to make a statement rather than to elicit information. What? Huh. Shoot. Hey, Google, that don't make no sense. Stupid internet. Sense. To be intelligible, justifiable, or practicable. Oh, God, stop talking.
Thank you so much, Katrina. Katrina really brings the drama, and I love that. We call ourselves Alive Magazine. Originally, it was a fancy way to say salon because the room we're in is called a salon, so we didn't want to say we were doing a salon in a salon. So we came up with this idea of Alive Magazine. And the idea there is that we have a whole variety of different kinds of things, and bringing the drama really helps us with that variety. So thank you so much, Katrina. That was really great and very funny. So thank you for that. I want to bring up our next writer now, and she may be bringing the drama too. We'll see. Carla Granat grew up in the 40s and 50s in the unique environment of Miami Beach, Florida, where as a young adult, she acted at the Hollywood and Upstage theaters. Later in New York and Boston, she worked in theater and produced an equity showcase in Manhattan. In Seattle in 1976, she created Plays That Work, a nonprofit that offered dramas paired with training for schools and businesses about issues such as AIDS, conflict resolution, drugs, and sexual harassment in the workplace. Her current focus is recollection, reflection, humor, and deep understanding of the gift of her life. Please welcome Carla Granat. Granat. Sorry, Carla Granat, my new friend.
That's okay. Just don't call me late for dinner. Oh, I can't move this. Yes, hello. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, great. Stay. Water. For 9 months, I didn't breathe. Didn't have to. My watery nest was so comfortable, and I had become adept at turning over and moving fluidly and languidly, occasionally knocking to see if anyone was out there. Then, one day in March 1940, as my mother and father sat in the Sheridan Theater in Miami Beach watching Gone with the Wind, my mother turned to my father and through gritted teeth whispered, "I'm in labor." She bent over, clutching her belly, just as Clark Gable says his last line in the movie. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. This was indeed the time to leave. I began to feel a persistent urge, like being led in a definite direction. And then huge forces began to take over, contracting and expanding, spasms, the noise deafening, disturbing the safety and darkness and roiling the quietly sloshing fluid, so familiar and nourishing. I sensed a way out, a tiny opening not far away. I made a great effort to get there, but it was exhausting, and I went limp with the effort. And then, when my mother was safely ensconced in the delivery room, she began to contract down hard. And just as the urge to breathe overcame me, she gave a final push, and I was expelled, jettisoned outward. My diaphragm kicked the door open to the new environment. My lungs unfolded and inflated with a sudden change in pressure, and my cry woke me to the mysterious world of metaphor. with a whiff of agency. There have been subsequent episodes of that urgent need for breath, and at times urges to stop altogether. But those weaker, energetic forces have been subsumed, absorbed into living, into life. Water, the element of so many seminal experiences, from being expelled from that warm womb into the world to being thrown into the swimming pool at the Raleigh Hotel Pool and Cabana Club in Miami Beach when I was 3 years old by my father, whose voice I heard as I plummeted through the frictionless air into that terrifying turquoise void. Sink or swim, he called, laughing, as I bobbed up, burbling between sobs, instinctively splashing and churning to the side of the pool. Not only did I not sink, I swam. Or at least I did something that propelled me forward to safety. And there, at the edge, was my father, reaching out, pulling me the last few inches to make contact with the tile gutter. Water was my medium from that day on. My relationship with my father, not as clear or transparent. I was the third not a boy child in the family. As it ended up, I was the third of 5 not boys. But swimming became a passion, and the only outdoor activity I enjoyed aside from riding my bike. I was adversely affected by heat and high humidity, both of which were the basis of the climate in Miami Beach. During the summers, the only relief was swimming, which we did every day. The Cabana Boy lifeguards at the Raleigh Hotel ran the gamut from sleek, dark-haired guys who might even qualify as escorts to college guys with a summer job, like Max, a blonde, brooding Adonis who wore a Kelly green suit that had white piping perfectly outlining his hips and thighs, the white setting off his tanned body. He was a grad student, lithe and muscular, serious and poetic, and his body moved unselfconsciously. Max, he had light turquoise eyes, the sun-bleached eyebrows and lashes, and lush-looking lips that curled in that James Dean way. I was 12 years old in the summer of 1952, and I was in love with Max. On this day, I sat at the edge of the pool, dangled my feet, making slow circles, watching the water curl around my ankles and glancing at Max. 1 hour. I had to wait 1 hour after eating, my mother said, and I had to enforce that with my 2 younger sisters. The logic was that you would get a cramp and drown if you didn't wait for 1 hour. I doubted this, but I was too scared to try it. Not for the fear of drowning, but fear of my mother finding out. I wasn't prepared to take that chance. But the smell of chlorine mixed with salt and sand was soothing and familiar. But today would be different, because today I was going to do it, the risky thing I had been planning. My 2 friends were there, and together we were going to make a pinwheel in the water, a pinwheel that turns like a Ferris wheel, comprised of us turning and turning in arcs, attached to each other by neck and ankles. The pool was great for this activity, 15 feet deep in the deep end. The first girl lies on her back and arches backward, sculling with her hands to propel herself backwards, as the second girl backs into the first girl's feet and begins sculling backward, as the third girl does the same. The first girl closes the circle as she surfaces and nestles her head between the third girl's feet. And voila, a backwards turning tiny Ferris wheel. If done well, the momentum takes hold. The sculling becomes easier, and there can be a mesmeric effect, a sense of otherworldness as the pinwheel turns and turns and turns. Nancy and Joan were good matches with me, all three of us about the same height. We started out fine, Nancy going first, setting the rhythm, then Joan latched on, and finally I joined. I was the last because I hadn't done it before, but I had been practicing on my own. The pinwheel turned. I sculled furiously, not realizing how hard it would be to stay attached by my feet and head to two different people. I struggled to regulate my need to breathe and found myself gasping when I surfaced. Not the smooth, predictable breathing I had witnessed when I watched professional synchronized swimmers. But I was doing it. I was. The wheel turned and turned, and just as I was beginning to relax into the rhythm, something happened. Suddenly, the feet around my head released and disappeared, and then Joan's head came away from my feet. As I rocketed away, I was almost out of breath and began to paddle in the direction of what I thought was the surface of the pool. The pool was 15 feet deep, and I was disoriented by my myopia and the lack of painted lines on the bottom of the pool, further dizzied and surprised by the force of the backward, downward momentum. Without realizing it, instead of paddling upward, I was heading straight down, my body having lost its circular curve when the two girls let go. Why did they let go? I was screaming to breathe. My heart pounded. I could feel it in my ears. Panic enveloped me as I fought to find the surface. Mixed with my panic was a retinal flash, a vivid memory of the hallucinations I had during my frequent respiratory attacks as a small child. My breath would come in short spurts, the fluid in my lungs sloshing around uselessly. I was drowning. The medicine that allowed me to not die because of not breathing caused me to slip into what I can only describe as a semi-coma, with images tumbling end over end, sliding in and out and over each other. The teddy bears were jumping off the wallpaper with bursting colors. I was lying there, unable to move, but breathing with all the outward signs of being asleep. In the pool now, as the panic reached its peak, I suddenly stopped struggling. I'm still not sure why. And my body went limp and started floating upward, just as the powerful and reflexive imperative to inhale clicked in, and I took what might very well be my last breath, probably of water. But with a gurgling gasp, I surfaced. Gasping and choking, I opened my eyes to see the pool deck swimming before me, the black edges of my vision gradually lightening and becoming the faces of Nancy and Joan, and very, very close. His eyes, a turquoise rainbow, Max. Now, in life, when it feels like I'm drowning, I try to remember to go limp, to allow my natural buoyancy to raise me to the surface, and imagine Max always there at the side of the pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla Granite. Carla Granite brought the drama after all. Thank you so much. It was so lovely to hear that. You know, another thing we call Collections, as well as Alive Magazine, is a public club. And we call it that because we love this burgeoning community that we have here. And we're always trying to bring new people in, whether you want to just come and watch, or if you were interested in coming to read, follow that QR code. It's easy to get a hold of me that way if you're interested in either being on the mailing list, or if you're interested in reading. It's easy enough just to say hello. Thank you so much, Carla. That was really, really lovely to listen to. Now, another reason we call ourselves Alive Magazine is because we have writers that are not here reading to us tonight. One from Honolulu tonight, and also we have one from Eugene, Oregon. Up next here we have John Schmidtke, Now, by day, John writes fiction while sitting in his law office, and by night, he writes nonfiction vignettes while sitting in his living room. He wrote a collage memoir as his thesis for an MFA from Goddard College. And tonight he's going to be presenting Nanakuli Beach Park Drive, a creative nonfiction personal vignette. And now, please welcome to the screen, John Schmidtke.
Mary's right shoulder. There. Nanakuli Beach Park Dive. I saw the fin over Mary's right shoulder. There. Put your mask back on. Go to the bottom. Swim in slowly. Mary looked at me, puzzled. What I had just said to do was part of the last lecture Dan's Dive Shop gave us about dangers of the deep. Barracuda, eels, urchins, and sharks. As Mary put on her mask, I put my face in the water. On a long, motionless glide close to my right, a shark looked me in the eye. How big? Any shark, any size, swimming close is big. 5 feet or more, maybe. As big as Mary. How close? We could have shared a plate of sashimi without either of us reaching. What kind? I don't know. I focused on its eye. I turned so I always faced the shark as it circled. I turned until I came back to where the shark's fin had appeared over Mary's shoulder. Mary wasn't there. We picked Nanakuli Beach Park because the ledge entry made getting in fast, the beach exit made getting out fast, the clear water and coral heads less than 20 feet down made dives interesting and gave us lots of bottom time. If we stayed next to the coral head, breathing slowly, adjusting our BCs, our buoyancy compensators, to suspend ourselves just above the sandy bottom, the colorful reef fish peeked out, darted back, reappeared, and eventually relaxed, swimming around us as though we were extensions of the coral. Small fish brushed the hair on my arms. Curious fish bumped my mask. Even at 20 feet down, we swayed in the gentle surge of the waves, and this fish swayed with us. Just a short while into the dive, I looked at Mary. She used her thumb to point to the surface like she was trying to hitchhike vertically. She could tell I wondered why we should surface. She pointed to her mask. There was water inside. Her hair was caught in the edge of the mask, breaking the seal. Water leaked in, and she couldn't seem to clear her mask underwater. She wanted to surface. I nodded. We drifted up. Coming to the surface, I asked Mary if she needed help. She said no, and she slicked the hair off her forehead. She adjusted the straps of her mask slightly. I bobbed, waiting for her to finish. And then, behind her, over her right shoulder, the shoulder away from the shore, I saw the fin. This was 1977. Spielberg's Jaws came out in 1975, and the movie won an Oscar in '76 for the best sound. When I put my face back in the ocean and looked eye to eye with that shark, from somewhere in the deeper water, the movie's double note shark motif started playing. The double notes of the shark motif sounding from a low E string on an unseen double bass being played with a sinister bow, that bow drawn dangerously in a slow pull across the open strings. The double note on the double bass played the whole time I faced the circling shark, but the music didn't speed up. I can't remember any music playing when I realized Mary wasn't there. I put my face back in the water. Mary was on the bottom. How'd she get down there so fast? I squeezed the air out of my front BC, hoping for negative buoyancy, hoping to go down fast, hoping to join Mary on the bottom. But I sank slowly, too slowly, and I spun slowly, always facing the shark, always watching its eye, always listening to that slow, low, double bass line as the motif started back up from the deeper, darker water. I wished my way down. I longed my way down. I met Mary at the bottom. We kicked in smoothly, long, even kicks, almost casual, nothing hurried, nothing flailing. My butt cheeks tensed like they did when I was a kid and had broken a rule, knowing I'd get spanked later, but nothing happened. We swam into the shore perpendicular to the lines in the sand caused by the waves, and we exited over the rounded rocks that fronted the steep sandy incline. I looked at my pressure gauge. I'd sucked my tank empty. Mary drained hers too. We took off our tanks. We sat on the sand, our masks pushed up off our foreheads, our forearms stuck through the straps of our fins, our eyes on the peaceful, blue-green water of Nanakuli Beach Park. To our right, on the edge of the beach, 3 boys came out of the surf, hopping agilely from rock to rock, laughing, their masks hanging around their necks, each holding a long 3-pronged spear in one hand and clasping in the other hand a trailing line of speared fish, their bright pinks, luminous greens, and party yellows bleeding out to sea.
Some of you might have noticed that Goddard College has been coming up a couple times already tonight. The reason for that is that I also got my MFA from Goddard College. I'm gonna use 2 hands for that. And this whole idea of doing a salon and having a community comes from there. We used to, after our coursework, we would go to the quarters across the way at Fort Worden, and we would sit in there and share our work together with Katrina and John and many others. And it was the inspiration so that when Jason came to me and asked if I wanted to do this at Hugo House, immediately I just thought, well, yeah, we gotta do what we used to do at Goddard. And you might think I'm promoting Goddard, but I'm not, because it has shuttered, unfortunately. It was a casualty of the pandemic, and we will miss it. The members of FISH also went there, so they will also miss it. We have one more reader for this first set. I'm going to bring him up now. Todd Campbell is a writer and visual artist. Born in the Midwest and raised in New England, he lived in China for 3 years, where he taught English and worked in TV news before landing in Seattle in the late 1980s. In the many decades since, he's worked as a freelance journalist, strategic communications consultant, and speechwriter. These days, he mostly focuses on writing poetry and creating abstract mosaics. His poetry has appeared in a dozen or so journals, including Poet Lore, Read Magazine, Common Ground, and Watershed. Now, please welcome Todd Campbell.
Thanks, Ariel. Thanks so much for inviting me. It's great to be here. I'm honored to be a part of this. Over the last few years, I've been, lucky enough to do a lot of traveling, and so I thought I'd read a few of my travel poems. The first poem, though, actually takes place here in Seattle. Most of our journeys begin at the airport. And I have a little ritual which begins with a double short extra dark mocha and cafe dilettante, which I highly recommend. And something that the server said there was kind of like triggered this first one. It's titled "How We Are Called." 1. At the airport, where I kill time standing in a long line to order coffee and a muffin, I'm stopped short by the young woman on the other side of the counter who asks, "What's a good name?" She's called Crystal, according to the tag pinned to her chest. And I have never liked my name, with its harsh, aspirated opening T and the leaden Ds at the end that land with a thud. Unpleasant to the ear for Romance language speakers, unnatural to pronounce in many Asian languages. Subtract 1 letter from the end, and it's the German word for death. 2. But what is a good name? When my son was little, I took pleasure in teaching him names for the living things we ran across. Orca, osprey, crocosmia, trillium, possum, raccoon, juniper, weeping willow. I believed I was making a gift of the world to him, one name at a time. Until one day, on a drive through rolling hills, past pear orchards and fields of alfalfa, where red-tailed hawks circled in the sky, his mother turned to me and insisted with surprising vehemence that I stop this naming of everything. As if to name a thing is to capture it, to possess it in some selfish way. 3, for a time, I frequented a tiny restaurant with a counter where 8 people watched the chef transform the day's ingredients into hand rolls that came through to a plate for $20 and were as close to sublime as anything I've ever eaten. He named the ingredients in each one as he set them before his customers. One day, a man sitting next to me said, "Yellowtail, isn't that supposed to be hamachi?" "Why not?" the chef said with a grin. "The fish don't really care what we call them." 4, as a matter of record, what I'm called is not really who I am. My birth certificate lists my father's name first. Not once did my parents summon me that way, or yell at me, or praise me, which is fine. I liked his name even less. But I have spent years explaining to teachers, doctors, bank tellers, customs officers, airlines, and departments of licensing why I appear to not be who I say I am. "What's a good name?" Crystal asks again. "Todd's fine, I guess," I say, though I'm still at a loss. My most recent trip was to Scotland. I went with a couple of artist friends, and we spent a couple of weeks on the smallest inhabited island in Scotland, which you could walk around in about 35 minutes, and which was one of the Slate Islands. It was part of the slate mining industry. So from about 1600 to the early 1900s, there were these massive quarries, and men worked very hard to make slate tiles. So this first poem, so this is the first of 2 poems from Scotland. This one's called Firth of Lorn. The slate stone here is eloquent beyond words. It whispers in an ancient language of inclusion and voids, the ceaseless accumulation of silt and soft sea mud. Everything we see is altered by compression, cleavage, and time. The quarries, long since abandoned, are deep pools of steel dark water riffled by wind. We do our best to read the fault lines and outcroppings, the veins of quartz, the mineral glitter of metals and ore. At the edge of the island, waves thunder onto the rock-strewn beaches. A herring gull slices sideways against the sharpening gusts. The old house groans. Curtains of gray rain rub away the horizon. Gray of ocean, gray of sky, gray of stone, graphite, pewter, charcoal, fog. Another Scotland poem. It turned out that we were in that area where Campbells come from, and actually don't know anything about that part of my heritage. I don't know what my clan is or my kilt, but I did spend the time sort of wondering if there's something here that had something to do with me. And this one is called The Grave at Old Kilchatton Church. I find myself sometimes restless and wander prone, not so much in search of a home as for want of one. But here by a windswept road between Cullypool and Tobernocky, the dark slant of gravestones with their long shadows. And on nearly every one, my name etched deep. I rest for a moment in a circle of shade under an old beech tree, among the fading epitaphs and broken stones, trying to conjure something, a voice perhaps, or some faint vibration in the air to tell me if I have roots in this uneven earth. Overhead, the ceaseless rustle of leaves. I'm sorry, two more poems. These are from a trip to New Zealand. I was spent 3 months there earlier this year. Basically, I spent Seattle's winter in New Zealand summer, which I highly recommend. This first poem, New Zealand is extraordinarily beautiful. But as we were traveling around, we kind of learned and realized that almost nothing was what it looked like before white people landed and extraction industries took over. This poem is sort of trying to figure that out. It's called We Travel a World Where Nothing is What It Seems. Everywhere sheep, ragged and unshorn, the color of dirty dish towels, grazing stock still with their docked tails and perplexed rectangular pupils, or moving like smoke against the gray emerald days of pastureland. Everywhere cattle, boulder large, black and white, broad rumps turned toward the sun like statuary, or dice tumbled across the vast red tussock rangeland. Everywhere strange terraces etched into hillsides like narrow benches in an ancient amphitheater. The lodgepole pines that march in rows up mountainsides and down the long slopes of volcanoes, or lie in clear cuts amid piles of burning brush. Asphalt ribbons trace ridgelines overrun by ivory swords of lupin. The unyielding wind's insistent threat of flood tide and shipwreck. A too bright sun that needles the flesh. So beautiful, we say, like Scotland, like California, like Hawaii, like Seattle. Everywhere we look, a reflection of our restless, unappeasable selves. And this is my last poem. While I was in New Zealand, I lost my glasses. Losing your glasses in a foreign country sucks. And so I spent about a week not being able to read anything or look at my phone and kind of wandering around in a bit of a daze. And this poem is called Myopia. And when I mislaid them, the lenses through which I view the world, I could no longer read the signs. What once seemed sharp and clear grew soft at the edges, vague and undefined. Blinking like a creature too long underground, I was strange to myself, stranger to others. My misapprehensions trebled, and in the softness of this world, I became aware of a deep weariness, of yearning and absence, the limits of my perspective. Slowly then, I began to feel my way forward, to make my way by stillness and silence, breeze and shadow. And I came to love my weariness, my imperfection, my empty, fillable heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Just like Carla, I met Todd because of this event. So if you're out there thinking I could never get up on that stage, you might be wrong. So it's really cool just to, like I've been saying, just to see all these wonderful faces, you know, to meet people, to see old friends and new friends. So great. We are going to take a little break, but do stick around. We got a lot of great writers coming up. We've got Jane Wong and Francesca Penchant. We've got Anna Nakasima Mwangi, and from Eugene, Oregon, Jessica Cagle-Faber, and I'll be reading a chapter from my children's novel. So I hope you all stick around. We're going to have about a 10-minute break right now, and I'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you.
My wife's just about to spend all Yeah. College used to be in Vermont. They had a satellite office there every day. To get past West Coast. Yeah. I think I've driven Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think they felt that too. They're probably looking for just at their vibe. Go ahead, Al. No, but last time it was, yeah. Before that, No, it's all right. I was here for 15 years. Ironic. Looking forward to hearing you About 1,800 months, so 1,600 maybe. Depends how fast you're reading.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Start talking to me. Was inspired by
I know you.
yeah, it's like I was imagining
Yeah.
yeah, there are
I know. But you just. They're the age of probably what would you
What's the collection of vitamins stay here. Gotta go.
I was kind of subletting your spot there too.
We can try some if you want.
I mean, I went over, you know, like.
Sit back down.
Immediately scolded. Can't even.
What's up?
Yes. You brought me here. Yeah, because that sounds like fun. Yeah.
Are you ready? Oh, are you ready? Hey, memoir, yes. I'm writing a book right now, but I'm in school for journalism, so I'm doing a lot of the I think I'm lost. So you get to stay. Yeah, we'll see about that. Definitely younger than last. I'm trying to dictate the age that's like the average is around 62.
You're probably right. Yeah, it's a fair assessment.
Yeah. You guys take your read.
Yes, for now.
For now. What are you 10?
Yes, but that's purely coincidental.
No, it's not coincidental. You look like a 10.
It fits. I
It does fit.
know. I just can't help it.
I mean, hey, Seattle's definitely safe.
It is the place. But yeah, I live here for now. I've been converting a van all summer, and I'm going to take off traveling for hopefully the rest of the winter. So head south and see. South United States. New York. It pitched me as a cool place to go for someone who wants to get more itinerant lifestyle.
My roommate just went to Mexico.
Really, where? Mexico City. And they have a good time.
They did. They love it. They go there all the time.
We'll drink to that.
What do you guys do? Oh, I like that.
We had Mexico before. It seems like It's also Japanese.
Is it from the bar?
It is from the bar. If you were interested, you could. Yeah.
Pretty good. You got free comics.
Oh, you have free comics?
We didn't read books. I took all of the books.
It seems like we have a comics tonight. Yes, I went to that. Dune mini comics night. Nothing to do with Dune the series. That's where the name comes from. But yeah, and they said it's going to be the next one. Just a little one page. I used to love making comics. Yeah. Yeah, not as much as I did when I was a kid. Definitely in college, I did a lot. I'm good with my stories.
I'm alright.
That's what we were doing.
I'm here with
Steve.
first time.
Steve and Hannah.
And I'm curious.
Your name?
And where are you from?
I'm from Oklahoma, but I've been
First time.
How long have you been living here?
actually most of my life.
Have you been here before?
Yeah.
It seems that
No, I'm not.
Oh no, I definitely.
You do?
I know it's super like stereotypical thing of like New York City, but I
Quite at this moment, but
I have been. That's where all the magazines are so much because I want to make a living.
just working on my right now. It's about 15.
You've noticed that like in Seattle, there's not a lot of opportunities.
Based off, I've never been there. A stranger, inspiration from
I do. But they don't have like forums, do they? Do you go?
Oh, no, not like
the area.
Yeah.
Going to Seaside.
I don't know.
reading it.
Towns,
They did before the election, they did a Street Fighter style show the different athletes for the different like we had last month.
So,
It was like in the style of the video game Street Fighter, so like hitting like the candidates to defeat other
AI?
So
So how did they get the visual?
oh, it was a
Oh, I see.
yeah.
But I wanted to
It's pretty cool. I didn't know you should do that.
and just SoCal.
I'm curious about the tattoo.
Oh, it's from the Legend of Zelda video game series. It's like a full symbol.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 3
One
triangles. You
time,
could take 4 triangles.
Well, it's five.
Last time I was
1,
there.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Here once.
That's right. I was gonna say 4 triangles.
Mm.
Of course, when they filmed.
Yeah, it was an easy to be a lot. When the hero gets to the end of the game, this shows up on the back. So, really like I wanted to say.
what's its significance to you? Like of all the things you could have gotten tattooed, why did you choose
Just something
that?
I felt most strongly about, because I've wanted it since I was like 7. That game was the only one that was it's appropriate for bonding. I don't think it's appropriate for bonding.
See the trees out in the wild. They get pressy and lemonade. I used to do that. It's part of college. Evergreen. Over in Olympia, yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was a joke. I'm not saying that my body is coordinated so far, but I don't know. I feel like I'd be so like ignorant about it, and I'm kind of stuck. Which is why I would rather not get it. I'm just really glad I feel like I would have been something like that. If I had like a childhood, then I really I mean, that's substantial. That's good. I don't know if it's like,
Yeah, it's not something that I would do. Something that I started checking with myself.
I always draw figures.
I was getting temporary tattoos from my dad. Like, anything with libido was outside of natural necessity. Yeah.
I go to Seattle U. It's like literally down. See you guys around?
I hope that was a long enough break for everybody. I think we got to get our second half of the show going on now. Once you're ready, we can find our seats again. Got the live stream still going, got our archive still happening. Got 3 more live readers to get to and 1 more video performance. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Ariel, and you are at Collections, Alive Magazine and Public Club. This is our 9th collection, as I mentioned, for those that missed that. I'm going to start off the second set with a short chapter from my work in progress. It's a children's novel called 3 Boys in 2 Houses. This stage, in fact, is dedicated to children's literature, so I always feel a little bit special when we have the children's literature on this stage. You can see the plaque for yourself if you like. 3 Boys in 2 Houses is a story about 3 brothers growing up in a divorced family. The year is 1982. One of the houses is the house on Wheeler Street, and that's in Queen Anne, where they live with their mom. The chapter I'm about to read introduces the second house, which is known as the Beach House. The Beach House is on Vashon Island, and that's where they live with their dad. I think that's all you need to know. Cornell is 6, Elijah is 9, and Hector is 11. This is the Beach House. Cornell struggled with his backpack as the 3 boys jogged up the dock. "Give me that bag," Dad said. He plopped it in the space behind the seats. All the cars from the ferry went up the hill, and then they all piled into the Fiat, all 3 of them sharing the only other seat. "Everyone settled?" Dad asked. "I don't have any room," Elijah said. "It's a short ride," said Dad. They went south on the Vashon Highway towards Ellisport and the Beach House. The clutch popped against Hector's leg as Dad moved into 4th gear. Elijah leaned on the door and half hoped it would open, so they all tumbled out. Cornell, on their laps, felt the wind in his hair and squinted to keep it from stinging his eyes. Hector nestled his elbow into Elijah's ribs. Elijah nudged even closer to the door, even though there was less than an inch to nudge. Should he open the door on purpose to teach them all a lesson? He dug his foot into Hector's ankle instead. The pressure from Hector's elbow increased, and the pressure from Elijah's foot increased. Elbow to ribs increased, foot to ankle increased, and both brothers were at maximum pressure and pain. Cornell, ignorant to the silent war beneath him, thought about the beach house and how much he liked it there. Everyone called it the beach house, but it was actually on the bluff and separated from KVI Beach by a thick blackberry bush and a steep cliff. It was a white house with a big yard and a plum tree. It was 3 stories if you counted the basement, which Elijah did. On the top, there were 3 big bedrooms, but they only used 2. The third was full of Dad's sewing stuff and some old cooking supplies. Mom and Dad used to practice yoga back when the whole family lived there, but it had always been used mostly for storage. The main floor had the kitchen that extended like a hall from the front door to the stairs of the basement. Above those stairs were the other stairs to the bedrooms, which could be accessed by turning the corner into the big room, which served as a living room and dining room. The back porch and yard could be accessed from there. There's your restaurant, Elijah said. Are we going there for lunch? Not today, Dad ruffled Elijah's hair and grinned. I have the weekend off to be with you. Sound Food was on the corner of the Vashon Highway and 204th in an old wooden building with dark shingled walls and heavy carved doors. Dad spent his days cranking out healthy foods from all over the world. Dad's best friend, John, was the baker there, and it was Cornell and Elijah's favorite place to eat, besides in the dining room at the beach house where they could just basically get the same food. Hector liked it too, but his favorite place to eat was Skipper's in Ballard. Elijah released the pressure on Hector's ankle, and Hector released the pressure on Elijah's ribs. It was still uncomfortable being squashed in the Fiat, but they called the silent truth. Skipper's is trash, Elijah whispered. It had been 5 years since Elijah asked Mom why Dad didn't live with them anymore. Mom said they had fallen out of love. Sometimes that happens to people. He suspected there was more to the story, but it wasn't a good enough explanation for Mom and Dad to divorce. He liked his old life on the island. They had the beach house and Dad's restaurant, and Mom had just started doing magazines by selling one about growing herbs she had a connection with to the little store next to the Sound Food called Mingleman. Everything was good, and then it wasn't. Elijah wanted to ask Dad what the real truth was, but he watched the passing trees instead, with Cornell's jacket in his face and Hector's bony hip digging into his thigh. Hector thought about the split too. He knew that Dad wasn't his first dad, but he had never met that dad, so Dad was his only dad. But when Mom and Dad split, he wondered how many dads he would go through. Would Dad stay his dad, or would he leave just like his first dad had? Maybe his next dad would be Jewish like Mom. Was celebrating Hanukkah and Christmas too much work for Dad? Do you think being Jewish is stupid, he asked. Why would you ask that? Dad shifted into second as he turned up the hill at the shoreline. Because you celebrate Christmas, but Jews don't. Elijah rolled his eyes and watched the sailboats in Quartermaster Harbor. Cornell was flying, with the wind blasting his hair into perfection. His eyes and ears were closed. Never mind. Hector wasn't sure how else to ask if Dad was going to keep being his dad. If it wasn't the religion stuff, it must have been Cornell's fault. Everything was great before he was born. Mom and Dad were in love. Elijah had been born, which sucked, but was sometimes okay. And then Cornell was born, and all of a sudden, Mom moved out. Cornell had ruined it all. Later, when Dad wasn't watching, he'd have to teach Cornell a lesson. After Dad pulled the Fiat into the lopsided garage, they went outside to the big back porch to look at the Puget Sound over the blackberries. Cornell imagined riding a paper airplane over the blackberries with a perfect landing on the sand below. Elijah jumped over the stairs into the yard and rolled in the grass. Hector jumped after him, almost landing on top, but falling just short. Cornell would not be jumping. Instead, he sat on the steps and waited for the next game, as Hector flew off the porch again and landed right on top of Elijah. Elijah stopped having fun then, but Hector was just getting started. He pinned Elijah and counted to 3 for the win and laughed his head off. "Get off your brother," Dad said. "I don't want to have to come back out here again. I'm inside getting your lunch ready, and I have no doubt you need it after eating with your mom all week." He gave each of the boys a look, pursed lips, and knowing eyes, and then returned to the kitchen. Cornell's cheeks tingled as he salivated. Why were they so rowdy? Was that why Mom and Dad weren't together anymore? "You guys should stop fighting," he said. "You wish," said Hector. Elijah didn't say anything. He lay in the grass and stared at the scattered clouds. Did Dad leave Mom because of her bad cooking? No, Mom left Dad, so that wasn't it. A frisbee floated above him, and he got up and headed over to the oak tree. If Hector was looking for a frisbee partner, it wasn't going to be him. Thank you so much. I do want to bring up our first scheduled reader of the second set now. Jane Wong is the author of the memoir Meet Me Tonight in Atlantic City from Tin House in 2023. She also wrote 2 poetry collections, How to Not Be Afraid of Everything from Alice James, 2021, and Overpour, Action Books, 2016. She is the recipient of a Pushcart Prize and fellowships and residencies from the U.S. Fulbright Program, Harvard's Woodbury Poetry Room, Artist Trust, Hedgebrook, UCross, Log Haven, the Barbara Deming Memorial Fund, and others. She grew up in a Chinese-American takeout restaurant on the Jersey Shore and is an associate professor at Western Washington University. Her poetry installations, which engage haunting and nourishment, have been exhibited at the Fry Art Museum, the Richmond Art Gallery, and the Asian Art Museum. Please welcome Jane Wong.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Thank you so much for the invitation to read and be a part of Collections. It's such a wonderful community, I can tell. It's just so great to see how many people can show up on a Wednesday night for writing. So thank you all so much for being here. And thank you for those of you who've already read and those of you who are about to read too. I was just actually talking to Katrina in the back. And so I figured I would read this poem and open up with this. It's actually an Ars Poetica, since we're actually just talking about the writing process and sometimes how unexpected it can be and frustrating when you are kind of wanting to write something and nothing comes out. It's not quite writer's block, it's more kind of like, what the hell? It's more like, it's kind of like, it's in there and you need it to come out and you're just like, why can't I just puke it out? Anyway, so I wrote this poem. It's an Ars Poetica, a poem about writing poetry, at a writing residency in Wyoming, and I was there for 4 weeks, and I didn't write a single thing. I was very frustrated, and then when I looked out the window at my residency, my little cabin, I saw a bobcat take down a mouse, and it turned to look at me with the mouse in its mouth and was like, "What are you looking at?" And I was like, okay, gotta write a poem now. And then after that moment happened, I wrote so many poems. Anyway, so this is called The Waiting. I was waiting for something to arrive. I didn't know what. Something buoyed, something sun knocked. I placed my palms up, little pads of butter, expecting. All day, nothing. Longer than that. My hair grew, fell out, then grew. Outside my window, I felt the flick of a tail in September wind. A bobcat sauntered across the grass before me, the black tip of its tail a pencil I'd like to sharpen. I immediately hushed, crouched, became a crumpled shock of joy to see something this wild, not myself. It turned to look at me, its body muscular in the turning. In its mouth was the tail of a mouse drained of blood, dangling diorama of death. Sharp eyes looking at me, and then not. Its lack of fear, its slow stroll across the stream's bridge, fur lacquering its teeth. Sometimes what comes to us we never called for. How long had I been crouched like that? I stood up, blood rush trumpeting. My arms wrapped themselves around myself lifted. It was as if a bank vault had opened, and I was just standing there, stealing nothing. Maybe some of you couldn't commiserate that feeling, but when it floods, you know, so. I was gonna read a newer poem. This one is a little bit of a love poem, because why not? You know, this poem came out of this moment where I was yet another writing residency, except this one was a smaller one. It's I don't know if anyone's been to Southwester. It's like on the Washington coast. It's a sweet space, and they actually have artists residencies there for only like 5 days or something. It could be a short trip or 3 days. Highly recommended if you're just trying to get away and write. Anyway, I was writing, and this cat, I opened the door, and this random cat went into my cabin and like wouldn't leave. So this is the love poem that came out of the cat, just like just going in, and not leaving. I couldn't find it for a while. It was a tiny cabin, so I don't know where it went, but it's called Let It In. This morning, a cat cried at my door, and a voice not my own said, "Let it in." And so I did, knowing she would nest, knowing she would burrow into a hot interior I couldn't reach. And of course, she went straight for the hidden places, the warbled underbed box, the hunched-in heater. She combed her tongue against worm-eaten wood. So I ripped a piece of cold-cut turkey to beckon her out, slick with aberrant brine. With wires warped, it's easy to ignite catastrophe. What if the cat never leaves? What if she bites and scratches and howls my heart apart? I waved the meat, but she would not take it. I saw myself grow old with her, wrinkled hands pouring a milk bath to share. Saw centuries pass, our frayed hens, our sleeping in faces, our mold spores sight. I saw her die, her last fishy breath rattling, her rice paper eyes closing, whole worlds I meadowed in. Or maybe she saw my death, pawed mucus from my clammy mouth, loosening each memory out like soil sunk in radishes. In that last hour, we praised each other for our generous traumas, for the weather that led us to knock and to open that door. Yes, it was us, sown with something like knowledge. Isn't this how love begins, always at the end? This is a ghazal, and so you'll hear certain words repeated at the end of each line, and usually in the ghazal form, in the last couplet, there's a moment of the signature where the writer of the poem says their name. And usually ghazals have a bit of melancholy to them, but also, I don't know, I think when I was writing this poem, it's in my mom's voice, so it's also persona. And I was trying to imagine the moment she actually left China, the first time she ever got on a plane to immigrate to the US. And when I asked my mom, like, the story of her, like, getting on that plane, she would tell me, and this is a very weird way to tell the story, she was like, there was a fly. It wanted to follow me in. That's what she said about her migration story. So I couldn't let that fly image go. Like, that's what she's stuck with. So this is the poem that arose from it. It's called Immigration, 1983. The dirt swooning behind my ear was as soft as eyeshadow, leaving a reminder of splitting wood in blush-colored fog, leaving splinters of my village self, loosening like a baby tooth. Roots rotten, horseflies hollering, their sticky cries, don't leave, don't leave. pecking my neck in humid longing. And did I lean into this buzzing loss, my gilded guilt in the sun of another country? To be married and leave all that I knew, the long manes of string beans braiding their affection. For a white taffeta gown I touched but never bought, its price tag leaving me a stricken slop. The last day, the last hour, that last minute, from dirt road sandal stomp to factory bell city song, leaving was swaying in me familiar. The airport's cold face shone before me, and so I kissed it, hot with the broth of memory. I packed one bag, leaving behind the fly who followed me. Jinai, its little wings calling my name, parting or closing borders, who can tell? What will you miss? What will you kiss now? So that's my mom. Just a couple more. So this one is from my grandma, who actually lives in CD. She's my one surviving grandparent. And I'm, the first in my family to, graduate high school, college, etc., the whole thing. And so like growing up, I think without a lot, I think I still have like scarcity issues that like, whatever, my therapist and I have to work through. But even as a professor, I'm just kind of like, oh my God, like don't waste food, or, I was just thinking about this, but sometimes I have really complicated feelings with upward mobility. And so my grandma, she'll go to like the grocery store and she'll get that bag of manager special that's like, you know what I mean? It's like all these fruits for $1 that are about to go to rot, and she'll buy that for $1, eat that. But I told her, I was just like, well, I'm a professor now. I can buy you really good oranges if you want. Like I have the money to do so. And she was like, no, you eat the good oranges, I'll eat the others. And it just like broke my heart a little bit. So this poem is inspired by watching an orange rot. If you want to do this on your own, you just go to YouTube and just like watch slow time lapse of an orange rot, and it's fascinating. It's called What is Love If Not Rot? I've been watching videos of rotting oranges on time lapse again. It's barely noticeable at first. The pores begin to grow, craters of no importance. After 14 days, the skin thins out, rice paper thin, wind thin, loneliness thin. At 15 days, spots bloom like a newborn galaxy or a bald buzzard circling, a shadow returning winter's wail. The skin puckers on itself, all chimney ash, all brainy matter mold. The middle like touching a young organ, slobbering milk and mud, a pedestal of goldenrod flora at 17 days. At 20 days, moss lumbers up and through, continents growing along this orb, thickening at 22 days like cotton lint from the dryer, like fur, a sheepskin cloud like my mother, who's an animal in her own right expanding. Now the color is phlegm yellow, poor yellow, growing smaller and smaller by 25 days, collapsing upon itself like curled fists, how I sleep at night, returning to heartbreak after heartbreak, fruit flies fluttering about like snow. What is holding it up still? What is keeping it here? How can I bear to watch it? How can I liquefy by 45 days? Wolfish and citrus murk, ever shrinking like every grandparent I've ever held hands with. At 85 days, how to hold this slush of glittering bees trapped in no worldly amber. Okay, y'all are so kind. Okay, one last poem. This one is also inspired by thinking about scarcity, and I come from this history of kind of like hunger, but I'm like surrounded by gluttony because I grew up in a restaurant. And this one's actually, I went clamming for the first time, and I couldn't stop. Like once I started, and I wasn't using tools, like I was just using my bare hands. And someone said to me kind of like, you gotta stop getting those clams. You gotta eat those all. And I was like, I'll eat it, don't you worry. Anyway, so this is a poem about clamming. And thanks for having me up here. I haul a house out of the bay. There's something about digging my arms into mud, as if I'm trying to find all the loves I've lost, dragging each burrowed foot, each ventricle in bivalves. How I tender the spit of the bay, murk trilling my arm hairs. The jutting claw of a crab eyes me from its windowless home. You and me both, I want to say. Mud bears in nail beds. My bending heart furnishes fat holes through weeds to sustain me. How my grandfather squatted as wide as a kite and dug to feed his children, the shells ringing along my mother's mouth, otherwise songless. I pull clam after clam from the slumping earth, and I toss it into a bucket, clanging a warning for those who wronged us. The tide lulls in lopsided adoration. I haul all these houses, my eyes dripping with clams. Salt air slops along my gums, punctuated with specks of sea grease. I bend to turn the earth again, the earth muscling against me. Each hinge, each ghost, an opening. In the murkiness of day, I grit and dig, and I sing our long decay to sleep. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was excellent. I first met Jane at a wedding. It was my wife Karina's college roommate, and it was really cool to meet her. And we talked about how we were both writers. And then the next day, I met her again for the first time. But it was really great to meet her. The second time, I mentioned I was a writer, and she said, "Yeah, you mentioned that last night." And anyways, it was a good time. Thank you so much, Jane. It's really great to have you be a part of our community here. I do want to bring up our next writer now. This is going to be Francesca Penchant. Francesca Penchant, she, her, is an author and investigator of the decadent. She writes about writers, artists, drinkers, Roman emperors, drag queens, perfume, sexy objects, and smoking. She published her first novel in August, a decadent noir thriller. She also publishes decadent movement writers of the late 19th century through her project, Rothschild and Company Books. She put a pronunciation there for me. Thank you, Francesca. Francesca teaches editing at the University of Washington and has an MFA in book arts. She lives in Seattle with her husband and their 2 ragdoll cats. Please welcome Francesca Penchant.
Thank you. I just realized that has a lot of decadence in it, huh? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Well, thanks to Ariel for having me back, and thanks also to Jason for suggesting me. So I'm going to read a little bit from my novel. This was originally the prologue, and my editor said it should come at the end, but so now it's the last page, but it sort of gives some stuff away, so that's why she said to move it. Sirens moan through Drinker's City, zigzagging closer to Ace's bar in flames. Fire trucks growing louder, swing past signs, rushing through red lights while Ace's monolith burns. Through the facade, past the Corinthian columns and the swinging wrought iron gate, and inside, past the heavy oak door and the shattered bottles shelved along the mirrored mahogany bar, and past Alexandra's bar stool, draped in Christmas tinsel, past the portrait of Amon de Valera, canopied by the vaulted ceilings, and surrounded by the 12-foot mirrors, and the glaucous stained glass windows with lead grids, and near the kitchen, is the body of a man trying to nothing. Ace got his comeuppance. He always wanted to die rich. And some beautiful beings who did his dirty work and earned his money got their dues after years of paying them. And he thought he was pretty hot stuff, but all he got was a bullet. So that's from the film. This is a little story called I Came Upon a Car. I came upon a car alone in a fluorescent underground garage, strong and silent, nonchalant, aloof, but with a glint in its steely left fog light. I took its picture and posted it on Facebook. White concrete pillars flanked this object. The ceiling chamfered in perfect 4-point perspective, above it in symmetrical concave geometries. The garage in which it sat echoed shoe clicks, door slams, alarm cries. I contemplated its hard gray perfection. It confronted me, the dark windshield obscuring its interior. Its headlights dim, but rimmed in a white glow. On either side of its body were the backs of small mirrors, its wheels vanishing into shadow. It had no brand on its hood, no make or model, but something about its black grille with its horizontal grooves expressed a German accent. And in fact, there was a hint to its origin on its license plate. A small D for Deutschland adorned it. And above that, a circle of 12 yellow stars, the symbol of the European Union. So it was a German car. Ha, I should have known. Something about its precision told me. Its angular features, its prominent bones, its lean, square face. I bet this car is punctual. I approached it head on and glossed my hand over its top, still warm, exhaling a faint smell of exhaust, tickling a fingertip along its shiny side where I saw myself, and opening its front door. I entered inside, closing the door with a thud, reaching for the arm of the seatbelt, strapping myself in, held rigid against the leather. Having penetrated its interior, having stepped into its clean pleasure, the cool, musky upholstery groaned as I slid into its embrace. The security of 2 tons of steel, glass, and aluminum enclosed me. Although it was younger than I, it could crush me. My breathing eased. I closed my eyes. I lay inside this machine to feel it holding me. There's that. And then this is called I Live for Dead Writers. I'm just a working stiff who loves reading, but in my dreams, I'm a Japanese lady in waiting who pens the very first novel. In my dreams, I'm a I'm a nobleman who writes vile books, is imprisoned for blasphemy, is released from the Bastille, and becomes a proponent of the French Revolution. In my dreams, I'm a decadent poet and flaneur who scandalizes critics, is prosecuted for offending public morals, and dies among nuns in a Catholic sanatorium. In my dreams, I keep regular habits, live with my mother, and write several novels. In my dreams, I live a homey, reclusive life in Amherst, Massachusetts, and jot 1,800 poems between chores. In my dreams, I'm an Irish author who dazzles Victorians with my plays of manners, visits brothels, falls in love with a lord, stands trial for gross indecency, and dies in Paris. In my dreams, I join the British Army, fight the Ottoman Empire, and die in a motorcycle accident. In my dreams, I'm a satirist and member of the Algonquin Round Table who moves to Hollywood where I'm blacklisted. In my dreams, I write jazz-age stories, befriend Hemingway and Lost Generation, and drink away the 1920s. In my dreams, I create short stories, journals, and erotica, and live a bohemian life with many lovers. In my dreams, I write absurdist plays. In my dreams, I'm an existentialist who writes a foundational feminist treatise and has open relationships with other writers and artists. But I'm just a working stiff who loves reading.
Decadent indeed. Thank you, Francesca. I met Francesca here through Jason, and as I've said a couple times tonight, this is a public club, and it's really great to just be with you all and to hear these wonderful stories and poems and plays and everything. We have our second video reader coming up here from Eugene, Oregon. Jessica Cagle-Faber holds an MFA in creative writing from Goddard College and is currently working on her debut novel. She embraces the ups and downs of the writing process, feeling like a creative genius some days and other days, not so much. Now please welcome to the screen, and from a graveyard, Jessica Cagle-Faber.
I'm out here at the Masonic Cemetery. I think it's a little spookier than really my story is, but that's okay. So all you need to know is there are two characters, Daria, who's about 10 years old, and her grandma, Beatrice. Okay. In the fall, Daria started a new school. It was only 5 blocks from her grandma Beatrice's house, but it was the loneliest 5 blocks ever, watching the other kids pair up. One Friday after school, she saw some kids huddled together on the sidewalk. They were laughing and yelling. One girl had a stick. "Look, I can make its mouth move," she said. As Daria approached, heat swirled inside her chest and climbed up her neck. She wanted to scream and make them all scatter, but nothing came out of her mouth when she opened it. "It's dead," a blonde boy said. He was kneeling next to a dark form. That's when Daria saw the cat. Blood had spilled out of its mouth and down its chest, matting the fur. The girl with the stick said, "This is boring." She must have been the leader because the group abandoned the animal, leaving Daria alone. She sat on the curb and jumped when she realized the cat was still breathing. She saw its chest gently rise and fall, rise and fall. The blood had dried, and yet Daria felt no pain. The cat wasn't in pain, she knew that, though she didn't know how she knew that. She reached out and stroked his head. "Pobrecito," she said. Just as suddenly, the cat stopped breathing. She watched and waited. She needed to be sure. She touched his paws. Nothing happened. Daria wanted to bury it, but her mother would get mad if she was late getting home. Out of the corner of her eye, there was the tiniest movement, a flutter of a breath. Maybe the cat needed to be put down. Still, Daria felt no pain, no suffering emanating from him. When she looked down again, she saw it. It was a glistening. No, that wasn't it. It was a glow. And it surrounded the animal. The mangled body pieced itself back together, its fur raised on the wind in front of Daria. The blood disappeared, and she watched as the cat appeared in light, in his fullness, brave and sleek. She saw him as he had been, there in the glow, before the world hurt him. Daria jumped up, elated that he was whole again. But how could the cat be still alive? She closed her eyes for just a second, and the glow disappeared. The body broken again, bloody again. She ran all the way home. Daria smelled biscuits the minute she walked in the house. She sat at the table as her grandma cut circles out of the dough with the glass. You're too quiet. What's going on? Grandma, I saw something weird. Something maybe I'm not supposed to see? Like what? Beatrice sat down. Something breathing when it can't be breathing anymore. Oh, this sounds like what my father used to say. He was a curandero, you know. Daria knew. She had heard bits and pieces sometimes when the tias talked about the past. He said everything had breath, from the rocks and trees to the birds and the fishes, her grandmother said. If you watched long enough, you could see a thing's spirit, especially when it was leaving. He said anybody could do that, but I don't think so. So it's not bad? Daria asked. Why would you think it's bad, Mija? Daria smeared grape jelly on a biscuit. Well, Mom says you and the tias exaggerate and see things that aren't real, like when you saw Tia Lupe at your bed after she died. Oh, yes, I did see her, her grandma smiled. Listen, sometimes when a person can't see something, they think it must not be true. But you know better. Did you see that cat spirit or not? Daria didn't want to answer. Did it mean she was crazy? Her mother had also said that about her grandmother. Finally, she nodded. That's a gift, Mija. Most won't understand. But it's okay. You don't need their permission. She kissed the top of Daria's head. Saturday morning, Daria ran to the kitchen to find Beatrice making tortillas. She had been up all night and had questions. I never hear you talk about your dad, great-grandpa, Daria said. What happened to him? She sat down at the table. I talk about him sometimes, but he left when I was little. Where'd he go? He ended up with a widow he had helped. Turned out her dead husband wouldn't move on. It was breaking her heart to feel him around every day, though this was years after they buried him. Years, Daria said? Her grandma nodded. Sometimes the dead don't know how to leave. She put down the rolling pin. My father married that widow, and I heard she kept his shirts real white. Beatrice looked off into the distance, and Daria saw that her grandma was still sad all these years later. She was sorry she had asked, but then she got angry. Didn't he visit you and Tia Lupe and the other sisters? Oh, Mija, fathers don't always stay, but mothers, that's our job. That night, when Daria said her prayers, the way her grandma had taught her, she added something new. Senora, please tell my great-grandpa I'm going to need his help. Amen. She climbed into bed. Oh, and thank you, she said. She slept peacefully through the night.
That's so cool that she went out to a graveyard to record that. Love that. All right. Let's see, something's going on here. All right. Thank you so much to everybody. And thank you so much to Jessica. We gotta fix this. All right. I want to bring up our last writer tonight. Hannah is a writer drawn to myth, psyche, and the private catastrophes that shape a life in singularity. Her work orbits the space where creation and collapse bleed into one another, where renewal demands a corpse, and the self is continuously undone. She writes from instinct and obsession, tracing the subtle shifts inside grief, desire, and becoming. Her voice is introspective without being precious, analytical without losing heat, always trying to understand how people break, remake themselves, and float through the world ever stronger and ever closer to truth. Please welcome Hannah Nakashima Mwangi.
Good evening, you guys. Hello. Oh, this mic is quite short. Or am I obscenely tall? That is the question. Thank you. Thank you. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Beautiful crowd, by the way. Beautiful. Okay, well, I'm going to be reading from my book that's still a work in progress. It's titled Adam Silverstein, and it's a book about ego and the possession of art. So in this chapter, he goes into a bar. He likes to take long walks. And at the corner of the bar, an old man tells him this sort of parable, like children's folk tale as biblical tales. You're in for a little treat. If you want to close your eyes, you might guess. All right. Once on a road that led to nowhere in particular, a king, his servant, and a frog crossed paths. The king had the habit of stopping in the middle of his journeys with his hands poised behind his back and speaking as if someone had addressed him. His servant Hubert was used to it. The frog, of course, was not. "And to whom do I owe this pleasure? You are quite the tiny creature, you beautiful frog. Is that a bow tie on your collar?" The king adjusted his own suit confidently, looking up at the sky. "I myself prefer neckties, much more sophisticated. Wouldn't you agree, Hubert?" "Mm-hmm. Much more sophisticated indeed, my majesty," says Hubert. They all stand, watching the king become distracted by something in the sky. And with neither complexity nor annoyance, nor consumed by great impatience, they allow their majesty the time to think. And what a privilege to be given some time to think. "Why is tomorrow like yesterday?" the king asks no one. A silence breezes past them all, a solemn, low conspired silence. "My lord," begins Hubert, "we really must go home now." "What a shame," the king sputters. "There are no more children, are there?" he asks with his hands on his face. "My lord, that is nothing to confuse your head about," Hubert says, watching the toll begin again. And for the first time, the sky too rejoiced in agony, and then it started to rain. The frog looked up at the king, curiouser and curiouser. What a strange divine, he thought. What a ruined king. And with that image of the king ridiculed to a terror caught between his eyes, the frog promised his life to him. The three went on, back to the kingdom, where the world turned cold and desolate, then quiet all the way, as if sound itself would bring forth an evil beyond repair. And as the rain kept its pour and the marching went on, the frog watched the king intensely. There was something in his posture that had scared the frog. With his arms anchored to the sides of his body, his fingers uniform and outstretched, the king statued forward. He looked as if his body belonged to a diplomatic sergeant, a lifeless, still suit of uniformity, so far away from human. And the frog, beholding the king's stiffened figure, felt a trembling seize him, not from fear alone, but from the sense that before him stood a man who had carried within his own breast some unfathomable curse. And yet, as the frog stared, he noticed something obscene. The rain did not seem to touch the king. It slipped over Hubert, soaked his own small body, filled the gutters with slosh, but as for the king, no, thought the frog, still stuck on the king's peculiarity, as if he were carved from wax. And then aloud, as if he were carved from wax. Hubert shivered. "My lord," said Hubert softly now, "you are not quite yourself." "Not myself," the king murmured, his voice somewhere behind his teeth. "Then who is it that walks before you?" Hubert's head hangs low as his hair turns an awful shade of gray. Silence again. And so they went on, endless in their march, until the frog sprang to the left of Hubert and begged him a question. "Why is tomorrow like yesterday?" he whispered to Hubert. "Understand your pace," grouched Hubert, like a slap across the face. And the frog, embarrassed and small, paused for a moment. The rain drumming the same measure on the tops of his head. Perhaps he had mistaken pace for place, he wondered. Or place for space, he laughed. Dumb frog, Hubert muttered, looking back. Offended now, the frog's head dropped to the ground as he watched a hiccup in Hubert's leg, as if suddenly it pained. But on they went, Hubert much slower, dragging his leg against the mud until he fell behind the king. In a moment's time, fell behind the frog, and then eventually the forest behind them consumed him, and Hubert was no longer. You can look at me now, you guys. Don't be afraid. How much longer into your kingdom, my lord? Asks the frog, the words bitter on his tongue. The forest abandons all reason, so do not fear, for we are quite near. The kingdom awaits tomorrow, the king answers, his glass eyes unblinking, and his skin sleeved in a glowing film of mucus. How much longer into your kingdom, my lord? Asked the frog, solemn and low. Frightened as ever, and the king did not reply. They walk infinitely, and the timelessness begins to stall. The frog, tired and glum, pouts in despair. He looks above and watches the trees go by and by. He looks below, and his feet go marching and marching and marching on. And in the middle of forever, the frog grabs a hold of himself. Because nothing in your ring changes, my lord, the frog voices, appeased with himself. And the king smiles. And what a bore that is, says the king, still walking, still petrified, it seemed. And the frog watched him go, stunned by the king's response, freshly angered with himself, feeling mocked somehow, and decided to return home. Thank you.
It seems our equipment is ready to be done with the night. The projection is off, the mic is falling apart, and we love that. I just want to let you know that our next collection is going to be January 7th. We're going to have Al Roth and Ann Hedring, Sarah Ramos Amador, John Brockhouse, Johnny Horton, and Caitlin Andrews doing live readings. Some of them are here tonight, and we're so glad that you're here. And we'll also have some video readings, one from Jalen Renee Fisk out of Dallas, and Eliel Lucero from Brooklyn, New York, and we hope to see some of you here. Thank you all for being here, and have a wonderful night. Yes. Yeah, I think I Yeah. Do you like the red? Yes. Oh, wonderful. I think that was one of his Oh, wow. That sounds great. Yeah. So you saw guys that sort of sometimes.
Probably run into you again. Just one short story collection I have.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited about that. Bye if anybody's here.
Yeah, this part of the little collection stories he's doing where each story was based on its sense.